Wow, beautiful, my friend.
Air is
So you're
constant.
exercising these muscles, so when it comes time to a musical context, you are prepared.
Exactly.
And they know how to work.
Yeah, that's what I think the whole daily routine is necessary for. It prepares you for any kind of playing that you, or any kind of techniques that you're going to have to use in your day.
Now, how did you balance all these different method books and all these different exercises in your practice routine? Like, how long were you practicing when you were upcoming?
Well, the routine was usually a good hour long, but then I would, you'd take a break. You'd try to get a good half hour to an hour off of the face before you do any other kind of playing. Maybe there was an ensemble, a jazz band, or an orchestra that you had a rehearsal for later on. And then, but after that, is one of the things that, and sometimes we have certain gigs where we don't have the luxury of, only limiting ourselves to a certain amount of playing. But if Buddy Baker had recommended no more than 4 hours of like individualized, like on your face time, like on your face playing.
Okay.
And it just because you could begin to do damage to things after. I've, of course, piano players, they can go for so many hours, and it just seems like maybe the fingers are not, they're delicate, but not as delicate as these, these
I find no
things
more
here.
than 2 hours. I feel like after 2 hours, you need
Yeah.
a little breather.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even if it's just a little bit. 2
Sure.
hours seems to be the time frame I
Yeah,
noticed.
Definitely. Yeah, after, as far as individualized practice though, if I could squeeze in another half hour to an hour in the early evening on whatever, like if I was working up for a recital or a jury that I had to prepare, or maybe it was working on like some upcoming concert where I had some, difficult things ahead and I wanted to kind of suss them out. And
What'd you work on for sight reading?
sight reading is a really important thing, especially if you're wanting to do any kind of freelancing and like for your career. I would try to incorporate at least like 10 minutes like per day of a practice towards that. It could be an etude, it could be like a big band chart, it could be whatever, just as long as you're seeing something that is pretty new to you that you haven't delved into. And when you're sight reading, you've got to put that inner critic totally aside, because when you're on the job, you're not going to be able to just stop and work things out, and you don't have that luxury like you would in a practice room. But since you're sight reading, you're recreating the scene of having to be in performance mode right out of the gate. So whatever happens, keep plowing ahead. I know it can be difficult, but just, you know, I mean, and if you have, like, set that metronome if you're, you know, I definitely recommend a metronome for, you know, helping to keep time, not depend on it, because you want to be able to develop your own internal sense of time as well. But just, it's a very necessary part of just daily practice, is to just have a few minutes at least of something you haven't seen before, and plow through it. No matter what mistakes happen, you just keep going, keep good time, and
on to the next one.
Yeah.
What about mouthpiece buzzing? You do any of that?
Mouthpiece buzzing, I do a tiny bit, maybe at the very beginning, before the routine really starts. Or any if I haven't done any playing in the day yet, I'll do a little bit. I don't do very much of it. I came from a school where they kind of shied away from it. And there are plenty out there that benefit amazingly from mouthpiece buzzing. Like and it works incredibly well for them. For a lot of what I was taught is that we have a certain amount of tension, although we try to be as tension-free as possible. There is a little bit that still occurs in there, but then all of a sudden, if we remove the horn and we're only using this, the tension becomes more. I mean, what I will do at the very beginning is something very, very short, just a little bit of a gliss like that, and then maybe say a major scale in thirds. And that'll be it.
Okay.
Just a little something to get things rolling, get the apparatus kind of working, so that my very first attack will be clean and not getting into thing. But and then the next stage of tension, though, is if we are not using this at all. That is very tense, and like just a little bit of that, like I mean, if you do too much of that, that'll wipe you out. Like, at least from what I've experienced.
Okay.
But you know, some people benefit greatly from it. So I guess it really just depends on the person. So yeah, that's kind of my thing on buzzing.
I like your mouthpiece though. You can see it buzzing.
Yeah. So
you're right. What a great visualizer, though.
Yeah. It's
puts things into perspective.
Yeah, yeah. You'd never know otherwise. Like what's actually happening in there. Like, kind of freaky for
right.
When
How did you see yourself? Can you just go in front of a mirror?
Yeah, you can kind of get like a mirror, and I think seeing somebody else use this type of a mouthpiece just like all of a sudden tuned me into that, and then I had to see for myself like how that actually looked.
Right. What trombonists are you into listening to that inspired you?
Yeah. One of the definitely earlier people that really kind of clued me in, besides Jack Teagarden, Tommy Dorsey, and just their very unique approaches and styles. I started, when it came to getting into bass trombone, I mean, I do have a love for both jazz and more classical orchestral sorts of sounds. So people like Charlie Vernon, Ed Kleinhammer, Bill Reichenbach, George Roberts, these were all people that just are such masters of their craft, and you could just learn so much from what they from their playing and just their ideas. And
Yeah, it's amazing. They're all
Yeah.
amazing. And you're up there with them.
oh man, thank
Yeah.
you.